Green had ceased to exist. Suddenly, all I had thought to be green appeared in another color. Everything else seemed to appear normal. When I asked some people if they had noticed that the color green had disappeared, their reaction was one of discontent. Not for the green having vanished, but for me to ask them the question. Somebody told me that there would be green again, that it was a matter of cycles. However, the cycle has changed, for even the trees have not turned green. It's interesting to see how we've solved the problem by just forgetting. Green is something we no longer talk about. The color green has been virtually removed from everything, from paintings, books, magazines, or any other object of utility.
Professor of mine once found an odd, big, petrified snail. It so thrilled him that it made him shout, "Snails have some ancestral relation with man." He always spoke with such awe, describing and comparing man's relationship with him. The skull, the skeleton, the muscular system, all made of similar material. The heart and the blood vessels, placed to perform the same function. The brain, made of the same kind of nervous tissue. He was so fascinated with the resemblance that he believed that the relation between man and animal was a mere evolutionary variation. Man was saved from his wild animal state by mere chance. In his obsession to see man as a direct descendant of the animals, he made himself a son of nature, becoming himself one more species for study and classification.
Sebastian!
Carl!
I knew I'd find you here. And on such a lovely day, too.
It is great.
Where else would you be?
I was expecting you yesterday.
Oh, no. Every day it becomes harder and harder to escape the office. Oh, Sebastian. I envy you your quiet life. I see you still pursue your old hobby. What do you find around here?
Well, we've spotted a colony of little monsters that used to crawl in this area millions of years ago. You're looking at nature's personal diary. As you can see, she keeps everything neatly arranged.
How are you, Sebastian? It's been some time since I've seen you.
Not bad. Nature proves me well.
Well, you look well enough, in spite of all the attempts by the press to portray you as a dubious survivor. I suppose they don't like the fact that you crawled out from underneath tons of debris 3 days after the explosion, unable to recall anything.
I'm being punished by the new lords for not collaborating with them. They like to make believe about their power.
Sebastian, I have something to tell you. Well, you may already know it. Kaufman was found dead in his apartment. According to the police reports, he committed suicide.
I read it in the papers.
And a great shock to us all, of course. Totally unexpected. The police have found some audio tapes, loose notes, memos, that sort of thing, in Kaufman's apartment, which point to irregularities in the safety management at the project. And even though there was an investigation into the causes of the explosion, which ultimately proved inconclusive, the material found in Kaufman's apartment would seem to suggest there was some miscommunication among the members of the staff on required safety measures. In fact, Kaufman himself is emerging as the central player in the tragedy. The evidence seems to suggest he knew of safety irregularities, but never reported them. And that's the dark spot on the case, of course. Why, if he knew, did he say nothing? The supposition is that Kaufman felt responsible for the explosion and opted for suicide 2 days before the press conference in which he was to announce the results of the center's own investigation.
Kaufman's death adds one more chapter of mystery. Anyway, you must be tired. You had a long trip. I expect you to stay a little longer than you did last time.
No, I'm afraid not. A great deal of work waiting for me at the office. Well, we'll talk about it later. But you're right. I could use a good rest. It's been a long day.
Well, I'll meet you at the house. You know where everything is.
Oh, Sebastian. The books you asked for. They're in the car.
Oh, good, thanks.
Everything remains and appears as it has always been, with the difference that green is no longer there. This could have been just a coincidence, but no matter where I look, I could not see it. For a moment, I doubted if anything had ever been green. Maybe this is what happened. The color green has vanished from the people's sight, like an object vanishes after it remains in one place for a long time. Perhaps green is still there. We just don't see it. The thought that this interior was once familiar caught me by surprise. It's surprising to see how much solitude can awaken one's past. An empty house doesn't exist. Something remains there. Somehow the walls and the floors absorb the laughter and intrigues perpetrated by those who once lived there, like a pet that acquires its owner's mediocrities. Until today, I haven't been able to recall neither some parts of my life nor the events that relate to the accident. I've spent quite some time going through some of my old notes with the hope that some of the written material could spark some memories. Something strange happened. All of a sudden, I realized my handwriting had changed. As I compared it with my recent writing, I was surprised to see how different the calligraphy appeared. It didn't seem to be written by the same hand. I've lost the rounded stroke. Everything now has become pointed and angular. They say that people's personalities can be learned through their handwriting. I'm sure a person can always disguise oneself by hiding behind the characters of a typewriter. Kaufman, the head of the investigating committee for the research center explosion, was found dead last night in his apartment. The police declared suicide as the probable cause of death. The 58-year-old eminent physicist was at the height of his career. He was a member of the National Academy of Sciences. According to intelligence sources, new findings confirm the theory that Kaufman knew some of the inconsistencies that ended in an explosion in one of the buildings of the research center burying hundreds of people. The explosion took place one day after a cargo was found in a Lisbon harbor containing industrial equipment used in the assembly of the nuclear plant facility. According to the investigation, the shipment came from the research center. The center is alleged to have provided some Far East countries with modern technology, violating this country's national security policies. The media is still able to maintain the interest of its readers. First, the mysterious explosion at the research center. The media focuses its attention on the people who died in the blast, buried under tons of debris. Then that story is forgotten and replaced by the fact that possibly sabotage linked with the explosion and linking with the material found in the Lisbon harbor. The media then focuses its attention on Kaufman, and that other story is forgotten. And Kaufman being the possible person responsible for the explosion.
The highlight of the press conference was Kaufman's audio tape in which he gave his own impressions of the causes of the explosion. I brought it with me. I thought you'd like to hear it.
November 16. There is a substantial list of violations on the safety procedures. We know today that the control system, the project safety system, was flawed. Some of the evidence could easily point towards a hypothesis that the plan for performing the experiment was drawn poorly. It was not detailed, and it had not been sanctioned by the specialists by whom it should have been sanctioned. I have with me transcripts of the telephone calls made by the operators on the eve of the explosion that supports it.
I remember when I became aware that the color green had vanished. I was standing by the window with my eyes fixed on the outside. Something triggered a feeling of nausea. I felt very disoriented. Something was not right. It was not until after a while did I realize what had happened. Everything coincided with the day when they turned down all the monuments and statues. Even the names of the streets were changed. The street names are now from people who advocated knowledge as a fruit of labor and hard work. Knowledge, it says on one of the new monuments, is the product of observation, test, comparison, examination. Everything has been transformed, like a patient's room thoroughly cleaned with no trace of the last occupant left behind. Not even a minuscule scratch on the wall or a fingerprint on the glass window. Everything appears clean and sanitized from any memories. Thank you for the books. They're admirable. Everything was done with a certain fascination. Have you decided to leave today?
Yes. I have a great deal of work waiting for me back at the office.
To conclude the case as a violation of safety procedures makes it difficult to determine whether the explosion was an act of negligence or truly an act of sabotage. It's clear that some safety procedures were violated, as the tapes and other notes indicate. However, the official files containing the periodic inspections does not uphold the material on the tapes. According to the reports, everything was conducted properly. Obviously, Kaufman knew more than we'll ever be able to find out. It's interesting to note how quickly everything has vanished. Suddenly, Kaufman's death covers everything, buries it forever. Some questions will never be answered. The system's too clever. They have a way, just when we're at the end, near to finding out the truth, and there we are back at the beginning again. It's been designed that way.
Sebastian, you don't seem very satisfied with the proofs found.
How can we know that the material found wasn't placed there? That it was just a setup to hide something else?
Well, that's a good question. But how can it be proven otherwise? You were there, Sebastian, when the accident happened. I don't think it would be wise or practical to keep this case open any longer. And to bring you back into the picture again, well, that just makes things more complicated than they already are. You know, the research center wants to keep things where they are, Sebastian. Under the debris. Besides, you enjoy being a small-town school teacher, don't you?
The sun will soon travel its course. I found myself listening to the words that once were spoken. Once more, everything I ever saw, smelled, touched, or heard tried to claim its presence. I tried to give an account of them, but I could hardly bring the past back. My whole body aches terribly. How long have I been in this ditch? I must have fallen and fell unconscious. I can't remember when this happened. It couldn't have been too long ago. I don't remember if this happened during the day or the night. Must have been during the day. Spring this year has come a little bit too early. Everything is covered with green. I can't see outside this ditch, but I can hear the noise of the foliage. I could almost say with certainty what kinds of trees are above me. I can tell by the sound of their leaves as the wind makes them rustle. I'm afraid I may fall asleep again. I should keep myself awake a little longer. I should not lose hope and be patient. This forest should be pretty much visited. If I wait long enough, I should be able to hear someone walk by.